So, in the want of time, let me take this opportunity to introduce Gaurav Bhai. So, Gaurav Agarwal is a SEBI registered investment advisor, and he's also a founder of 91 Capital. So, basically, an equity advisory firm which is primarily focused on unearthing or uncovering the opportunities in India's small and micro cap space, because that is a place if we find the right set of companies, so and that we can generate great alpha and create wealth, to say. So overall, Gaurav has got 15 years of investing experience, and he has been in the market since 2009. So must have so many learnings over 1.5 decade, and uh, through the course of this session, we'll be learning this. So from 2014 to 2023, so he was working with Bowhead India Fund. So basically, one of the country's best performing FPIs, and he has gained extensive experience in finding out nascent investments and how these investments can scale. So that is basically his. And I think if I'm not wrong, Gaurav, you can correct me. So in October 23, he launched his 91 Capital, right?
Yes, yes.
That's great. And primarily, his tracking universe is below 3,000 market cap. So that is the area of interest of majority of the people who understand the market right, and look for the companies who are in very nascent stage and can become very big going forward. So I'm also joined by Kaustubh Roplekar, founder at Alpha Wealth Venues, and he will also, in between, share some thoughts around the same space, because he also shares the same experience as Gaurav does, but primarily to start with. So Gaurav bhai, welcome to our forum. I know afternoon time is a little odd time for our audience, but investing and investing talks are something which we can discuss anywhere. At any point in time. So welcome, and maybe if I missed something on your introduction, you can surely add, and if any disclaimers in place, you can surely tell us.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I think you were bang on in everything. Just one thing is, we started 91 Capital in 2023 October. Though for 1 year till December 2024, there was no offering or nothing as such. We were managing money for a couple of people whom we still manage the money for. But the Twitter, social media, and the recommendation services, all of those started in this year beginning itself. So that is the only thing I want to add. Plus, I am very, open to name stocks, but you should not take those stocks as recommendations as buy or sell calls. These are just to showcase, the case studies to help you understand the concept or the.
Perfect. I mean, we are open, and perhaps Kaustubh and Manthan can also. I mean, we love talking about the businesses, but again, our audience is a smart audience in the sense they know that whenever we speak, we do not have any ill intention. And again,
Correct.
as a caveat, I mean, you can always take that. We are surely biased about the businesses we like, so that is current disclaimer. By no means any buy sell recommendation on any. So Gaurav,
Correct.
interestingly, like it would be great to know. I mean, the first question I ask in majority of the spaces is that how it started for you. So, what was the starting point of your investing journey, and how it has evolved over a period of time?
Right, right. Thank you again. My investing journey started very, very crudely. I come from a business family, and is my voice audible? I think there is a lot of air. I'm sitting outside in the sun. Anyways, I just
Very,
try to be on the corner. So,
yeah,
so what I was saying is, I come from a business family. We were into construction, and my journey was set when I was 17, 18 year old, that I will be, taking over the construction business after my father, and that was the intention. But then in 2008, one uncle ji came over in my hometown. I come from a very small town called Kashipur in Uttarakhand. And he opened his laptop in the morning, and in the evening he said, "I made my money." Right. So I was just intrigued, and at that point of time, we didn't even have a laptop at our home. We had that monitor where I used to play games like Road Rage, etc. So that is when I realized, okay, what is it he is doing in laptop and it is making money? Because I, on the other hand, used to go out early in the morning, deal with laborers, and check with construction material guys, and by the evening I'll see who has done what kind of work. When it comes to payment, bribing officials, all of that, I was involved in all those things. But then when I realized, okay, this is also a way of money, and it seemed very, very appealing, sitting in the AC room and opening laptop and doing something. So, anyways, that was the bad experience also, because it is not as simple as it seemed that way. But anyways, that's what got me started, and then just after that incident, I went to my father's home in Delhi. I spent a week with him, understood how to open a demat account, this that. I asked my father a loan of 10 lakh rupees, which he gave me. And that's how my trading journey started. Mind you, I'm saying trading, because I didn't know what investing was at that point in time. So I was doing FNO, trading in a currency, commodities, futures, or equities, everything. And the bull market was also helping me, in 2008 early. So even in the introduction, you said, right, I started the journey in 2009, and I still say 2009, but the actual trading started in 2008, where the 10 lakh turned out to be 33 something, in a matter of 4 or 5 months. And then came the GFC, where and that 33 became, I think, three and a half, because I was massively on leverage. So that was a very emotional journey for me, because at one point I thought, okay, my life is set, 10 becoming 33, 33 becoming 3.3 CR and onwards. But that whole house of cards fell, and it gave me a very bad experience. Okay, this is not why I expected it out to be. But then I also thought, okay, if this thing can make so much of money, then obviously it has some merit. If I learn something more about it, then okay, I can do well here. So whatever the money was left, I spent 80,000 odd in buying books. I went to Delhi, old Delhi market, and bought wherever investing, markets, financial was written. Because in 2008, you didn't have Amazon or Flipkart or as many number of blogs as are there right now, or the courses to understand or learn investing. So I was doing my business, I was completing my education and learning these books, and then simultaneously also, started looking at these small microcap stocks. So 2009 mid is when I started looking at stocks more seriously. Uh, whatever I used to learn in any book, I used to apply in those in that small micro caps. But one good thing is what I did is I created an Excel. I mentioned the book names and the framework given in those books, and also the stocks which I am buying, or at least putting in a watch list because of those frameworks. Then over a 2 to 3 year period, what happened is I started becoming comfortable with a few methodologies, right? Because in markets, I see there are a lot of ways to make money. What is comfortable to you, and what comes natural to you, right? Some people are very numbers driven, right? For them, second, third decimal point is what they require to go through. Like my previous boss at Bowhead is a very numbers driven person. While on the other hand, I am not so much a numbers driven person. I am more of a, a story, understanding the story, understanding the narrative, getting valuation in my comfort, looking at a big picture, and then invest, So after doing all those things, it started becoming apparent that what kind of companies I'm able to identify more in what framework is becoming, coming naturally to me. So that is when I realized the companies which are obscure, which nobody is tracking, and obviously in the smaller market cap category is where I have some kind of an inclination towards. Second is cyclicality, appeared a lot to me, because people generally, invest for quarters or 1 year. And in that category, the most, you have the highest amount of competition, because everybody wants to buy stocks which make money in the next 1 year. But when you go beyond that 1 year period, you look at 2 to 3 year journey, and you buy a cyclically stock at a very cheap valuations. When I say cheap, I mean on price to book, less than 1 or point 0.5 book value, point 0.5 EV to sales, etc. because you don't have any profits in those companies, in cyclically bad companies, going through bad times, I mean. So that also seemed very good, and they paid a lot of money for me in 2010-11 cycle. Those two things is is stuck to me, and still I follow the same things, going after companies which don't have con calls or PPTs or or interviews, management interviews, etc., not coming into magazines, etc. And also cyclical companies where I could buy them cheap and wait for 3 years for the industry to turn around. Obviously, there should not be any structural risks associated to the company. So that is the framework I use now. But just to complete the one thing, so till 2012, I was just focusing my business, writing a blog which nobody was reading. But one person read that blog. He used to run an investor relations firm in Delhi, and he called me for an interview. And I was also kind of looking for a job because most of my friends whom I was going college with or going to school with, all of them left to bigger cities, and I was only there in the small city. So I was feeling this FOMO, that I'm not doing great in my life because I'm stuck here. So I went for that investor relations job, which I realized it wasn't meant for me because I am not into glamorizing PPTs or showing numbers and giving masala to the story, etc. But one good thing has happened is there was a company called MPS which I was invested in 2012 because the management took over happened in that year. And there is this guy called one person who founded Bowhead. He was looking at this company, and that company where I used to work. They were representing investor relations for MPS, right? So this guy called me at 7 p.m. and I used to sit late in the office because I used to sit late till 11 p.m., complete my research and, write blogs also on public markets after doing the work during the day, on my professional engagement during the day. 7 p.m. he said, okay, who does MPS work in your company? I said, I'm the one, even though I was not representing that account. But since I knew a lot about the company, I was invested there. So I said, okay, I'm there. So we met the same night, and that's how we kept exchanging our thoughts and stock ideas for the next 8 9 months. And that is when I got an offer in September 2014, and when I joined in 10 days time itself. And since then, I worked with him, and I think fortunately and serendipity wise, and luck also played a role that despite not having an IIT, IIM, or any good education degree, I happened to work with him, and I worked with him for close to 8.5 years. And whatever I have learned, like on forensics, on how to deal with managements, on how to position size, risk management, everything, whatever I could think of, it's 99.99% is because of working with Bowhead. So yeah, that is an introduction. I am sure I have taken a lot of time, but I guess it was needed to give the entire perspective.
Perfect, Gaurav. Great to listen about how it evolved for you. So sorry. So I'll come to Kaustubh Bhai after this, Gaurav. And Gaurav, one question like, where do we start, right? Any filters you use? Framework is one place, but before that, coming to
Yeah.
universe of companies is important, right? So where you get
Hmm.
your ideas from, be it from peers or maybe any screener
Yes.
query you run, or would love
Correct.
to hear about it.
So, see, three things which are very important to me, and in terms of importance, is valuation. Second is in microcaps specifically the listing history. The older the company is, the older it is being listed, the better it is for me, right? For good or for bad reason, but I generally try to avoid newly listed companies. And the third is, how many people, whether the company is coming to the street, showing every announcement, PPT, this, that, what is it doing? So these three are the key things which I generally look for. So in addition to all the other things, growth should come after I invest, and opportunity size, industry size, like all the other drill which many investors do. That is also important, but these first three things are there. So how I go about finding out ideas is going through BSc and SC announcements daily. Earlier, it used to take a lot of time because you didn't have websites like Screener, which which has made your life very easy. In terms of putting various filters in the announcement side. Uh, so now it takes lesser amount of time than it used to. First level of ideation comes from these BSc announcements, which company is doing what, and second level of ideation comes from screens. So I have a very detailed Excel models which are linked to ACE equity. People who don't know ACE equity, they are like Bloomberg of India, where your Excel is linked to databases. You have formulas written, and the values get updated automatically. You just have to put the company name and date and parameter. So a lot of ideation happens from there. Third is obviously the results, which are coming. The older companies reporting bad results, good management, good balance sheet quality. That is also an area of interest. So basically, these three things help. In terms of network, then I left my job at Go ahead. One second, let me just. So when I left my job at Bohet, I thought, okay, I should have a network also. So I started speaking and getting in touch with, I think, 25, 30 odd people. And these are like very good investors based across India. And over a period of last 1.5 year, I am now in touch with only three guys, right? That 30 or 28 guys became three. So, so I think network also helps, but most of the people, who are giving you idea, they have some or the other intention behind it. Maybe it's a controversial opinion to have, but most of the stocks in SME, small micro caps are pumps, is what I realized. And so if somebody is giving you a stock idea just for the reading purpose, you should go and do your own process. And if it makes sense, then only you should buy. Generally, what happens if somebody has made a killing in markets, you, on the other hand, would think, okay, this person has made it big, and you and try to, uh, what is that term? Coattail, coattail him or her. So I think that is the worst thing to do in markets. So these are my points where I do the idea from.
Perfect, Gaurav, and I think majorly some commonalities. So, Costa bhai, I mean, you heard about the framework and the filters. So, perhaps you want to add more on that because this is the space. I mean, these days a lot of people have started speaking about these, but as you rightly said, one has to weigh how much weightage one shall give to whom, right? Because identifying right people is the most important thing, be it the promoters or the guys who are covering this space. Yeah, Costa, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Prince. Good afternoon, everybody who joined, and hi, Gaurav.
Hello.
So, Gaurav, very happy to know your interesting start to the stock markets. You can say unconventional, and
Correct.
since I had
Correct.
a more or less a conventional start, being from Mumbai, being a chartered accountant, really happy to have market participation the way you are doing it. Also, as I understand the framework that you mentioned, okay, where of course valuation is key, and then all the material that is available, we run through that. Okay. First, I would like to share a couple of views that I have about this space. So, just for everybody's information, like I have more than 20 years in the markets now. I started around 2002, 2003, and like a fundamental investor would do, because at that point of time, technicals, techno funda, this, that, momentum, and many other things were non-existent. There used to be fundamentals, and then there used to be price action. So that's simple as that. Very less use of things like charts. Okay. So the first decade was obviously making a lot of mistakes, and then going on to write those and change, first of all, not making that mistake and the behavior to write. So as far as I remember, the first decade was very difficult for me to actually buy a microcap or a very small company, because just looking at it from the whatever little information is available on the internet or the companies what the company gives out, and take a judicious call of a big allocation of the portfolio was very difficult. Conviction was not there. In the last 1 decade, Gaurav, we've been more research focused, going deep into reading a lot about the company, the business cycle, the sector, then understanding where the company actually is able to contribute in the profit pool of a particular sector, and then most importantly, what all we can gather about the management of the company. So the management of the company many times is not only about just whether in the last few years what they said it happened, but more on the lines of are they able to give you a fair idea about what is happening in the industry and what some of their competitors are saying about them, etc. So we have in this space one thing that we have realized in the last 5 to 6 years of heavy participation ourselves is that the key is of course the management first of all, because if the management doesn't know how to ride the rough times, how to manage things when the business might be doing well but the price tanks, or when there is a reported corporate governance issue which happens very very regularly, then how is the management able to communicate, address, and then actually lay down their facts threadbare so that it doesn't happen that anything is left to chance. Other than that, these companies also have a shorter track record compared to companies which have 2 decade, 3 decade kind of history on the exchanges. So many times we can't get the comfort of having a very long walk the talk kind of thing. So these were the few learnings initially. Then, of course, as you said, being very careful about the sectoral cycle and the valuations of the company. That is growth at a reasonable price is what we have been implementing. So with you, would like to dive a bit deeper. Okay. So from you, we would like to understand, those key couple of things that you do, which you can get a big comfort about, a big conviction about, before you can take a big position or a relatively good allocation to a particular company. Over to you, Gaurav.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for sharing your journey also. Uh, so, see, for me, uh, I don't have a market cap category as such. The smallest company I have bought in my life is a 4 crore market cap company. The smallest company I have right now in my portfolio is a 38 crore market cap company. And the largest company right now I own is 8,000 crores. And second largest is 1100 CR, right? And median market cap is, I think, 450 odd. I operate in a category of stocks which are like very, very small. They are, most of the people call them bangar caps or, kachara caps, et cetera, et cetera. So, for me, I don't play the allocation game, right? I play the idea game. So even today, the largest allocation I would have, right, that would be maximum, I think, 7.5%. My average allocation remains three, and minimum, not minimum, but I say most of the stocks are at 2% kind of level at the time of buying. At the time of cost, I'm saying. I obviously, market price wise, they can be very, very different. So a couple of things, which are very helpful for me to take a allocation decision, right? Or to think about, okay, this should be a higher allocation for me is, the comfort with the business model at what, cycle we are in and also the valuation, right? So obviously, two companies, same valuation, everything else being same. Suppose growth is also same and balance sheet quality is also same. How will you decide which one should be larger? So ultimately, it comes down to your gut feeling and your comfort with that particular industry, which is again a function of whether you have invested in similar kind of industry or similar kind of stocks before or not. A company where, so that is just one point. Second point is, I don't particularly believe in having multi-baggers, right? So I started tracking my data, personal portfolio data in Excel sheet, where as on 1st April 2014, I entered the value of stocks which I was holding. Then month after month, whatever salary inflows I was getting and putting them in market, those became the positive entries. Then the negative entries were such where I had some large expenditure like buying a car or going on a foreign trip, this, that. And historically, I've always been 100% invested. 99.99% money was going into markets, and only some bit was going into PPF for tax saving purpose. So that's why I had to take the money out also sometimes. So those were negative entries. And then the valuation as on 31st of October 2025, and if I put an XIRR formula, it comes to 51%, right? Which is very commendable. And if some company if you have an investment which has grown 51% CAGR or XIRR in the last 11 years, you have a crazy, multi-bagger. But I'll also say this: in the last 11 odd years, I have bought 107 stocks. In three stocks, I have lost money or didn't make money. Out of those 104 left out stocks, only five stocks where I have made more than 10x. And rest all the stocks, which are like 100 odd stocks, were like 1x, 50%, 200%, 300% kind of stocks. So idea is not to boast about anything, but the thing is, in the small cap category, people have this idea. Okay, you are buying it to get a multi-bagger idea. Right. I think getting a multi-bagger is a luck and it happens by chance. At the time of buying, I don't know whether it's going to be a multi-bagger stock or it's a 0% return stock. At the time of buying, what matters to me is if the stock can give me 50 to 100% return over the next 2 years, right? And even in the bad market phase or in the bad cycle, it should not lose money for me. Now, one example I'll give, there is a company called Ecoplast, right? ECOPLAST. So it is currently trading at around $500. The promoters have merged their promoter entity with the company, and the valuations look cheap. Everything looks amazing, right? It's a decently priced company, and once the merger is done, it will look even more attractive. But the reason why I'll not buy this company, like I have only 0.1%, like just a tracking position here. But the reason why it will not be a large position for me is because in the previous cycle, when the markets were not doing so bad, they were getting what 2, 3x or 4x P multiple. I know you can say a theory ki हाँ अभी ये change हो गया, everything has changed, this has become better, they have merged the promoter entity. But for me, the kind of valuations they were getting in the previous cycle, which was 2013, 2019, 18, and 20 period, they become very important, and that is perhaps the reason why I chose to stay with companies which have been listed for a longer time period, right? So I'll not go and invest in EcoPlus at this point because it is a 10x in the last 10 years, and ultimately in the business as such, nothing has changed. Right, growth has not become more attractive than what it was, or nothing has changed as such in the business. So I'll try to stay away from this kind of very large multi-baggers which have happened, even though they look cheap. But at the same time, there is a company called Venky's, which, if you see over a 10 to 12-year period, they have not made any returns, right? But in between, you have two, three different time periods where it has, let's say, 6x, 7x, etc. And and these kind of companies, when you buy when they are making losses, but balance sheet quality is maintained and structurally there is no risk, then you end up making a lot of money when the tide turns, right? So for a company like Venki, it will be a 2 to 3% position to start with. If it falls further, if it let's say goes down to book value, and I know over a last 10-year period the minimum book value, price to book value, it has gone to is 0.7, 0.75x, and I am getting to buy it as 0.8x, then obviously it becomes a larger position. So I hope I am able to give you some idea about the allocation decision using these two examples.
Right, Gaurav. So, my follow-up question on this, Gaurav, would be like allocation is again a function of individuals. But again, when it comes to managing public money or investing big money, so do you believe this segment is an appropriate even if you have more number of stocks, right? Apart from the normal diversification, which we talk about 15, 20 stocks, you can have 30, 40 stocks. Even then, the liquidity position which you can add to these companies is again questionable. So, what are your thoughts on that? Is it really scalable, or in individual capacities alone it can work that well?
So see, it's my just 1 second. I'll just leave and join back again. Just give me 1 second. Hello.
Yeah, Gaurav, you are audible.
Perfect.
Audible.
Perfect. Yes. Yes. So see, the strategy is very scalable. I know of people, because see, ultimately, at this point of time, I had around, let's say, I think 40 companies I have right now in my portfolio. And I'll also explain you why this strategy is scalable to a, let's say, 500 crore rupees portfolio. Uh, uh, so see, most of the stocks, which I buy, right, say they have a market cap of 500 CR, right? And you would, at a 500 crore fund size, right, you would, if you want to have at least 40, 50 companies, you have to put minimum 5 crore companies in every stock, right? Which means you are essentially buying just 1% in a typical microcap. Which I guess, kind of stocks I like to buy like Venki's, which people are selling because of bad results, or companies, which nobody is looking at. And on a bad market day like today, the last week was one week where, you can buy stocks in any quantity without discovering the price. So that way, it is scalable, but it requires you to, buy those companies which you're not competing everyone else to invest in. So that is just one submission here. I'll also say, that the 4 crore market cap company, when I invested in it, right? Anyways, the name is Rama Vision. It was 2017. 4 crore rupees was the market cap, and from the company's P&L, 3 crore salary was going out to the promoters. So at that point in time, the idea was if that salary becomes half, then I'm buying a 2 PE company, and if the salary becomes zero, I'm buying a 1 PE company. And with that mindset, I invested only 2 lakh rupees in it, right? And I guess that time of portfolio was in a single digit crore rupees, and it was less than 1% position for me, right? Over a period of time, from 4 crore market cap, it has turned out, it has currently a 120 crore market cap, and I've still not sold anything because now they are launching a lot of new products and getting into different categories. So in terms of proportion from less than 1%, it has become much better than it when it was, from the starting time. So, uh, uh, so even a smaller allocation, can help you a lot. But the only thing is you have to have that mindset of getting to 50, 100% kind of returns and not being too rigid about, choosing to invest only in multi-baggers, in potential multi-baggers.
But again, individual capacity of holding companies for longer periods is something which is fine. But as we were speaking, like if we are to assume that it's a public money and there is an opportunity cost, right? 2, 3 years of dull period can definitely, make minds of people who do not understand the nuances as a fund manager does, right?
Correct, correct.
So in such scenarios, what would be your take on that?
So see, the strategy which I explained, that is ideally suited for a personal portfolio, and for a public equity fund. Obviously, you cannot go and buy 4 crore, 30 crore kind of companies, because ultimately people whom you money manage for, they is what I've realized. Obviously, not true for everyone. Is they don't really have a handle on their liquidity needs, right? And in a bad market, only you need liquidity. And during those times, you don't get liquidity. So it's important for a public money, if we are managing it, they have to be invested in companies where the liquidity factor is there. The strategy which I mentioned, so far, that is best suited for the individual investments and for people who have at least 3 years view, right? And also people who can track the investments, who are okay to sell their stocks at 20% lower prices and get into something else, which makes more sense.
Right, Gaurav. So, Kaustubh, coming to you, does this strategy work for you wherein finding companies which nobody is talking about, or, obviously that kind of companies might take time so as to get the investor attention, and as we were speaking, there is always an opportunity cost. So, how it goes in your framework, and perhaps we can talk more about it.
Yeah, so the framework can be similar, but yeah, Gaurav, according to us, is a bigger risk taker in the sense that when it comes to market caps, it is not being conscious about the market cap, but more about where we feel there are companies that we know. For example, it can happen that in a particular cycle, a company has done well, and then there was a reason that either due to the sector cycle or because of some turbulence within the company, there was a down cycle of business, and then of course the performance. And when we are tracking it since many years, and we feel that now the company has every reason to jump back into the fray of turning around its business and then its performance, and then of course what is linked is the investor returns. We get into it. uh, for what we recommend to clients, it is rare that we take a chance on a company which we absolutely don't know, which can be very small in size, and where as of now we may not have a high conviction on the management and a long track record. But as Gaurav mentioned, there are times when in our personal portfolios we can take such risky bets. उसको हम लोग कभी कभी binary बोलते हैं, zero या one types. कि if these asymmetrical bets and these particular turnarounds these happen in the next 1 or 2 years, then you might have a explosive kind of growth and valuation re-rating in the company. But yeah, I mean, within the advisory space, we try to play relatively safe. So just to give an example, we can invest in a company which is, say, listed 1 year back in the SME space, which can be 100 crores or a sub 100 crores, even in the advisory space, for the simple reason that the management has already, shown a few things. What is the sector about? And if you are able to judge the uniqueness of the business and the TAM based on a meeting with the management, okay, so there we would not really be comfortable just to look at things and study them from a distance. And as Gaurav mentioned, just like he had a investor friends or investor community which has shrunk in size, ours remains fairly larger community where we exchange notes and understand, because we firmly believe that knowing anything about a business sector or a company, collective wisdom has certainly helped us. Okay, there are times when we may not be able to know a lot of things, but we meet one of our investor friends who we suddenly realize that has been meeting the management over the last 2 years, and that is why we realized that what we knew about the company was 10% of what he knows. And that might turn out to be good or bad, but at the same time, it certainly opens our eyes to lots of facts and interpretation, which we were not aware by just reading material that was available in public domain. So, the framework can be similar, but again, it's a very vast 5,000 plus kind of stocks listed universe. And within that, how each person tries to identify potential gems. Okay. The methods can vary, but the idea is the same, that we also look for disproportionate returns through asymmetrical bets. That is always the hunt for what we are in the stock market for.
Thanks, Kaustubh. So, Sandeep bhai, just to check. Okay, I can see you now. Yeah, hi. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, please continue. Continue. I don't want
Uh-huh.
to break the
So
flow.
in continuation also, like Gaurav, this question, and then we take Sandeep Bhai's views also. I mean, majority of the time it happens that, as you were speaking previously, the business is doing fine, and whatever the management has guided are materializing. But for some reason, the investor participation or that kind of thing is not visible in the I mean, price action is too short a time frame, but again, obviously, if you talk about 2, 3, 4 quarters, that is a decent time wherein at least the companies which are performing as promised should get an attention if the business is right, the growth is there. But we see majority of the times that that is not visible. So how you go through that time period and basically because there are times when it brings frustration, right? So basically how you go tackle this.
See, there are two things to it. One is business doing well, and the stock price not responding to it, which is what happening in the current market setup. And the other is the business is not doing well, and obviously the stock will also not do well. Though that was not the case in 23 when even the results were bad, but stocks were making new highs. But thing is, in a first category where business continues to do well, which is the case with with a lot of companies in SME right now. So you have no option but to stay with them, right? Even though they may frustrate you, you will see large caps or slightly larger cap companies, IPOs coming, making money, and you will feel, okay, my portfolio is not going anywhere. So at that point in time, you can give in to the frustration and sell and change your strategy, right? Which is what I also did in the beginning of my career. But in that strategy, also the day you do it is the is kind of a top, right? Because that is what generally happens to me. Happened to me that time when I changed my view or shifted to larger caps or shifted to some other theory or some other philosophy. I started losing money in that also. So over a period of time is what I have realized. Holding on to the names where if your thesis is playing out but the market is not responding, ultimately you end up making a lot of money, right? Ultimately, in a 2 year, 3 year period, you end up making a lot of money. Obviously, you have to handle the emotional turmoil which you have to go through, and that is what the cost of this profession is. Right. Otherwise, if it was so simple, why would somebody work for HUL after passing from IIM Ahmedabad, going to rural areas, learning about distribution and then doing the corporate ladder, if it was so easy. So I think the price we pay, is obviously we are taking the risk with our capital and we can lose money also. But beyond that, the patience and this emotional turmoil which you have to go through is another cost. And with time, you get to learn it. I'll be honest. The last 1 week, the current time period in SME and microcaps, it is difficult. But what is the option? What is the other option you have, right? But if over a 2 to 3 year period, these companies will be bigger in size in terms of revenue, PAT, balance sheet wise, cash flow wise. And currently, you are paying just 10, 12x trailing earnings, right? And while people can say it's AI होना चाहिए, defense होना चाहिए, या फिर all these Zaz words should be there in the business for it to get re-rated or for it to get a higher valuation. But all of these are like phases of market, right? Ultimately, all the narratives die down. What matters is the P&L growth, balance sheet quality, cash flows. And if you're buying something at 10, 12 P and it is growing at 20, 25% while generating sufficient cash flows, giving dividends, then I think easier said than done. I'm not saying it is easy, but it is difficult for me also. You have no other option but to hold on to it. At the same time, you keep looking for new ideas, you keep going through BSc announcements, you keep looking at new results. And you can obviously, following your own same strategy, you can choose to shift to a different stock, which may be a bit cheaper or growing a bit better. That you can obviously do. But otherwise, it's ultimately a waiting game, is what I would say.
Thanks, Gaurav. So, Sandeep bhai, same question with an extension. Like, I mean, we always talk about I mean, that is why we have 30, 40 names or maybe whatever comfortable numbers one is with, because that help you cut down on the risk. But again, your thoughts on the similar question.
सॉरी प्रिंस रिपीट कर दो मैंने आंसर तो सुन रहा था एंड आई एब्सोल्युटली एग्री विद व्हाट गौरव
तो
इज सेइंग
प्राइमरली संदीप भाई क्वेश्चन वही कि आई मीन बिजनेस अच्छा कर रहा है, रिजल्ट अच्छे आ रहे हैं, बट इन्वेस्टर अटेंशन अच्छी कंपनीज को नहीं मिल रहा. सो इन दो सिनारियोस ऑब्वियसली
see if business is uptrending, see your ability to generate alpha on a company is a function of how many hours you have spent on this. It is not a function of someone gave you tips on WhatsApp or Twitter, or you by sheer luck you got a post, bought it 3 days ahead. I mean, those are trading and absolutely valid ways of making money. But if we are talking about investing, anyone's ability to generate alpha, obviously there will be flukes, there will be misses, there will be, I'm talking about over a longer period of time and on a much diversified portfolio. Alpha compared to whatever benchmark you want to measure it with will only come when you spend significant amount of time on that, which may include upsizing, downsizing, trading some portion of it. For example, there is a company which is, let's say, trading 20 times, growing 40% every year for next 4 years, right? There will be a period of 6 months, 7 months when nothing will happen, right? you will feel like अरे लास्ट वीक ही ऐसी दूसरी कंपनी थी वहां बात की वहां 40% है. दैट इज जस्ट रैंडमनेस, राइट? वो आपको पता नहीं है, आप हिंडसाइट में आपने यहां से स्विच करके वहां पे चले गए, बट वहां पे आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग लेवल, जस्ट टू न्यूमेरिकली पुट आउट ऑफ वन 1:10, आप 3 पे बैठे हो. इस कंपनी को क्योंकि आप 2.5 साल से फॉलो कर रहे थे, तो योर एबिलिटी टू अंडरस्टैंड मैनेजमेंट लैंग्वेज, उनके वर्ड्स, उनकी ऑप्टिमिज्म, उनके रिस्क स्टेटमेंट्स एक्सेट्रा इज प्रॉब्ली एट 8. तो जस्ट बिकॉज यहाँ पे आप थोड़े दिन स्टैग्नेशन में रहे, आपने तुरंत क्रिकेट छोड़ करके बगल में बोले कि यार ऑलमोस्ट सिमिलर लग रहा है, गुल्ली डंडा बल्ला इसमें भी घुमाना है, तो चलो थोड़े दिन गुल्ली डंडा खेल लेते हैं, वहां पे श्योरली फेल करोगे. सो मोर यू स्विच स्टॉक्स, मोर यू विल फेल. यू शुड चेंज. सो बेस्ट ऑफ द बेस्ट स्टॉक, ये भी आप बहुत ट्विटर में थ्रेड आती है कि वॉरेन बफेट के लिए बोलते हैं कि 20 साल रखा 30 साल, वो बात नहीं हो रही है. एवरेज चर्न म्यूचुअल फंड्स में उनका एक तो टैक्स बेनिफिट होता है, तो म्यूचुअल फंड्स गाइस कैन डू अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स व्हिच वी एज एन इंडिविजुअल्स कैन डू. देयर इज अ इनहेरेंट टैक्स डीकंपाउंडिंग इफ वी डू टू मच ऑफ अ चर्न. बट वहां पे भी बहुत सारे फंड्स ऐसे हैं जो साल में मतलब हो रहा है ना 5 बार घुमा दे रहे हैं. कई लोगों की एवरेज होल्डिंग ही कई 1.2 ईयर्स है या 7-8 मंथ्स है. बट आई एम सेइंग जो ये वीकली और हर 10-15-20 दिन में लोग घुमा रहे हैं, वो तो श्योर शॉर्ट वे है पैसा लूज करने का. नेचुरली अगर 100 लोग ट्राई कर रहे होंगे तो 5 लोग जरूर मिल जाएंगे जो ये जेन्युइनली उसमें पैसा कमा रहे होंगे. बट इन जनरल most people will lose money like that. So it is always beneficial to stick to certain companies as long as they are growing. विद इन दैट आप ये कर सकते हो कि फेयर वैल्यू रेंज अपने माइंड में रख लिया कि यार ये 400 से 600 के बीच में ट्रेड करना चाहिए. 580 पे आया तो कुछ 10-20% क्वांटिटी ऑफ कर दिया. बाय शेयर रैंडमनेस वो फिर से 510 आ गया तो फिर से ऐड कर लिया, वो थोड़ा बहुत कर लिया, ओके है. बट एटलीस्ट यू आर डूइंग इट ऑन द काउंटर्स, यू अंडरस्टैंड. So again, you have to develop your circle of competence, which obviously is industry, but more than industries, especially in macro caps, which are always bottom up industries, ideas, not the top down ideas. It is also specific companies, specific management.
हाय संदीप जी, कौस्तुभ हियर.
Hey कौस्तुभ, क्या हाल चाल है?
बस सर, चल रहा है अच्छा. So sir,
Hmm.
few points that I had from my so last 3 years is where we have participated with a good allocation to micro caps and also to SMEs. Okay. And of course, we also have a style where growth cannot be at any valuation. It has to have a reasonable valuation. And the entire, the history geography is around what can be a reasonable valuation in a tailwind sector of and where the SME is, running like a hare. So of course, 23-24 had a lot of aberrations on the higher side. We saw P's of 60, 70, 80 for some EPC companies. We saw 150 P's for various kinds of companies. My point is, तभी जो एक क्रैश करेक्शन फ्रॉड टेकिंग आउट एक्सपेक्टेड था, that happened last year, or say you can say September 24 to March 25. But my view has been the few companies that we were very sure about their trajectory of growth, about the management which we had met or interacted with, and the kind of time that they had. Okay. They have bounced back very well and they are doing well. There are some exceptions which are still remain at a relatively very low valuation and they continue to grow high. सो मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ कि मेरी जो कॉन्फिडेंस है लास्ट 3-4 साल में on this entire outlook towards micro cap and SMEs is in fact at an all time high. So would just like to understand from you how have you viewed it, and what would be your guidance in terms of SMEs.
नहीं नहीं, गाइडेंस गाइडेंस तो बहुत ही गलत वर्ड हो गया. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट नोट शेयरिंग और थॉट शेयरिंग. सो कौस्तुभ, सी व्हाट यू आर सेइंग, बोलते हैं ना कथनी और कड़नी. आई एम 100% इनटू माइक्रो कैप्स. Not to say I advise it to anyone. I won't even advise it to my brothers. Forget about to random strangers on Twitter. But I do it. That's my confidence, and that's also my liking the space. तो हम लोग स्टैंडर्ड थ्योरी, जैसे मैंने कई बार स्पेसेस में बोला है, प्राइवेट कॉल्स वगैरह में बोलता हूं कि आई डोंट थिंक 99% ऑफ द पीपल have the risk appetite, or mental bandwidth, or the skill set, or the mindset to invest in a segment like this. So अगर 24 करोड़ पैन है तो मुझे नहीं लगता कि 20 से 24 लाख 25 लाख लोगों से ज्यादा इवन इवेलुएट करना चाहिए सेगमेंट को. but that still is a very large number. Second thing is, in general, for the people who are in 40s who have seen enough of it, there are enough people who have made good money in 20 years. They understand large caps very well. They understand mid caps very well. They don't want to, put gamble. They don't want to put crazy amount of hours also in market, but they like markets. For them, it can be a growth kicker and alpha generator kind of a thing. So maybe 10%, 15% allocation in this segment, where they can pick maybe 1% each in 15 names. I'm talking about the large portfolios, right? 15 names पे एक growth bets ले ली. So while we always call it SME, I try to, at least in my mind, always call it early growth, bets. तो उसके अलावा तो कोई वो नहीं है. ऑल टाइम हाई बिल्कुल रहेगा, क्योंकि वैल्यूएशन सुपर चीप है. जितने भी पास्ट साइकिल्स हैं उसमें जो डिस्प्रोपोर्शनेट पैसा है, जैसे आज से 1 साल पहले लोग बोलते थे कि 10x 20x क्या है, मैंने कहा किसी को नहीं पता है 10x 20x क्या है. और वो भी उन वैल्यूएशन में 10x 20x बात करना, अगर सिंपल रन करो नंबर्स, तो लगता था यार दूर दूर तक कोई चांस नहीं है, पता नहीं क्या बातें कर रहे हैं लोग. बट अब ऐसी बहुत सारी कंपनियां हैं जो कभी बुल मार्केट आएगा, हो सकता है वो 12 महीने बाद आए, हो सकता है वो 3 साल बाद आए, हो सकता है वो 6 साल बाद आए, हो सकता है वो कभी ना आए, वी डोंट नो. बट वंस इट कम्स, प्योरली बिकॉज आपकी अर्निंग अगले 3 साल में 50% कैगर पे 3x पे बैठ गई और सीधे मल्टीपल 3x हो गया, तो आपका 10x हो जाएगा, राइट. और एक्सेप्शनल ग्रोथ स्टोरीज उन सब की बात नहीं, हटा देते हैं. वो 50x 100x तभी होता है छोटे बेसिस पे, या कुछ उनमें स्ट्रक्चरिंग केसेस होते हैं, उन केसेस की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. लाइक ओपन क्लियर ट्रांसपेरेंट केसेस में 10x पॉसिबल है कुछ एक स्टॉक्स में, बट हु नोज व्हाट विल हैपन. सो दीज आर द ग्रेट टाइम्स टू बिल्ड अ क्वालिटी पोर्टफोलियो. I think people anyway within SME also have shifted towards quality. By quality, it is just not the cash flows, the corporate governance, also the management willingness to put in more efforts towards investor communication, because in tough times people love some hand holding by management. So some managements are tuned to do that. They have the KMPs who can support such endeavors. So right now investors are liking. Doesn't mean those neglected names will not do well. So when things will come, those neglected names will immediately bounce way faster than, let's say, some of the popular names. But popular names right now obviously have the safety, because people have, especially some of the newcomers who were late entrants in this space in last 12 months, were beaten down very badly, right? So rightfully so, people are little scared. Liquidity is very high, very low. Good results, absolutely zero bounce, no liquidity, except for 5-10 popular names where a lot of scalping is happening. वहाँ पे liquidity है, बाकी जगह है ही नहीं. But I also don't mind that lack of liquidity, because then it forces people to think of it as writing startup checks. So when you write a startup checks to your colleague, your friend, your relative, or someone you either angel investing or Series A, you don't start thinking कि 15 दिन बाद इसकी प्राइस क्या है, because आपको पता है कि कोई एग्जिट तो होना नहीं है. The only question you will ask from that company, preferably every 3 months, कि भाई जो तुमने बताया था कि तुम्हारा बिजनेस यहाँ से यहाँ हो जाएगा, अभी कितना हुआ है. तुम प्राइस की बात ही नहीं कर रहे हो, क्योंकि प्राइसिंग करना मार्क टू मार्केट ऑप्शन ही नहीं है. आपने चेक दे दिया है, कभी वो बाद में कोई फर्दर सीरीज होगा, कुछ होगा, तब देखा जाएगा. अभी तो कुछ होना ही नहीं है. सो द ओनली क्वेश्चन यू आस्क इज what is happening on the business metrics. In private equity, that's the only question you are supposed to ask, and that is the only question you are practically allowed to ask. But because it is a listed space, but almost similar kind of companies, we constantly judge their performance from stock performance. तो अगर बिजनेस 30% बढ़ रहा है और स्टॉक 40% गिर गया है, तो रिवर्स डिडक्शन है कि समथिंग मार्केट नोज विच वी डोंट नो, एंड देयर मस्ट बी सम कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस इश्यूज. दोस काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स कम. अब इसमें भी कौस्तुभ क्या होता है कि 10 में से एक बार ये स्टेटमेंट सही भी होगा. जैसे अभी मैं एक टोटली डिफरेंट एनालॉजी दे रहा हूँ. कल कपल ऑफ माई क्लोज फ्रेंड सर्कल में एक बंदे ने बोला कि अरे बिहार में बीजेपी जीत रही है. दूसरे ने बोला कि नहीं, ये तो अभी अर्ली है, नहीं होगा. तो बोले अरे इतनी बड़ी लीड के बाद तो जीतते ही हैं. बोले वो लास्ट टाइम याद नहीं है कि वो 11 बजे के बाद पलट गया था एंड ऑल दैट. Why I'm taking this example? I'm saying there will always be some exception, right? But that exceptions can't be rule. In general क्या होता है? In general investing में यही होता है कि अगर earnings बढ़ रही है और stock de-rate हो रहा है, those are great times to build a portfolio, to expect an alpha basically make more money than the earning growth. That's the usual rule. Obviously, that is painful. That phase is painful and that pain gets rewarded. अब उसमें 10 में से ये जरूर होगा कि 8 में आपकी बात सही लगी, 2 में हो सकता है कि देयर इज सम हिडन एंगल विच यू डिडंट नो एंड यू रियलाइज कि अरे यार ये, बट देन दैट्स अगेन पार्ट ऑफ द गेम. तो इसमें स्केर्ड होकर के उस तरीके से एनालाइज करेंगे तो यू विल मेक इवन मोर मिस्टेक्स. सो आई विल श्योरली रिक्वेस्ट पीपल टू स्पेंड वे मोर टाइम अंडरस्टैंडिंग द quality of earnings, quality of management, so that they don't get scared of the price action.
Thanks, Sandeep bhai. So, coming to Gaurav, Gaurav, you draw one parallel, within the SME space with the past, be it 2018 or earlier years. So, if I were to ask your understanding, where you see we are in the cycle, and perhaps we can also take Sandeep bhai's and Kaustubh's view after you.
Right, right. Thank you again. And Sandeep bhai ने जो बोला वो I completely agree with you. You know कि building business understanding is the only thing which gives you comfort in a falling stock prices. Coming to your specific question, see, 3 cycles which I remember very clearly is 2013, 18 to 20 period, and current one तो कुछ हुआ ही नहीं है. मतलब if you see just 1 year, Microcap index, which is the index I track, it is down close to 10-12% from its peak, right? It's hardly not even, and standard definition of bear market, which I don't know who gave, but he said if it is more than 20%, then only you are in the bear market. So by that definition, we are not even in the bear market. And if you see, excitement in these investor events or WhatsApp, groups asking where people are asking or sharing stock ideas, it is similar to what it was in 2024 also and 2023 also, right? So I'm not saying people are getting too scared about the microcaps and SME. Though IPO market has to a larger extent has dried for the SME companies, we are not seeing that kind of stellar listings which we were seeing last year. But otherwise, investors' interest is very much there. So now coming to the other part, the similarity is in 2018-19 period also, right? On good results, we were not seeing that kind of stock price appreciation that in a otherwise normal market you would have. The similar thing is true here. And when I say similar thing, it is not for any like say a 10,000, 20,000 crore market cap company. I'm referring to a very specific size of companies, and SME microcaps where standard definition is below 2-3,000 crore, right? Only for that particular segment I'm referring. So here, good results, not much. Okay, we may not, the stock prices are not going so fast high, even though they are trading at good valuations. On a flat results, Q1Q flat or YY flat, पिटाई हो रही है, and bad results going down 30-40% in a matter of days. It is very similar to what used to happen in 18-19 period, where stocks which have come off from their peak, let's say 30-40%, even if they are reporting bad results or slightly bad results, they are being beaten left and right. On good results, they are not going back to their previous highs. So in that ways, that is one similarity which I see. Otherwise, in the last cycle, 18 to 20 period, because of change in MFI, small caps, the multi-cap and multi-strategies and large caps also who were putting money in small caps, they had to take the money out of small caps because of change in definition. If you remember, 2018 is when SEBI came out and said first 100 companies are what you should consider as large caps, and 100 to 250 is mid caps, and beyond 250, 500 is small caps, right? And many mutual funds were holding a lot of shares in that 250, 200, 500 category, and they had to start selling them. And that is one of the main reasons why in small cap you had such large drawdowns in the last cycle, which is not the case right now. Here you have the mutual fund flows are still very much there, but those flows are coming to other categories, and that is why you are seeing IPOs like Grow or Lenskart. All of these are getting subscribed at such crazy valuations. So we have it's just 1 year of not making money. I have spoken to many people. Some people are sitting on 22-25% drawdown. That is the max. A lot of my friends are making new highs also in the current market, and they are also investing in microcaps. I am down 9% from the peak. Historically, I have gone 60% down also. 2020, I was down 70% also. So in terms of pain, I don't think we have yet felt the pain which microcaps give. In terms of journey of pain, we are still in a very nascent stage. I don't know whether we'll get to see the pain in this next 1 year or not. But last 5 years have been very good. You know, if you remember, March 2020 was the last difficult period, which we can remember. Obviously, in between, we had certain times like Russia, Ukraine, or, like March, April 2023 period, or last year, a couple of weeks for the election time, that also reversed quickly. But if you ask yourself and ask you, when was the last time you were feeling, you were hating yourself, or you are having a very disgusting feeling about markets, I think most of us can agree that it was 2020. And if you ask yourself today, how are you feeling about markets? I'm sure you're not feeling disgusting about micro caps and small caps. So we are still early in the cycle. I'm not saying that we'll not make money in the next 1 year, as Sandeep ji said. We can be in the bull market after 1 year, after 3 years, after 6 years. I have no idea about it. But I can just say, in terms of pain, we are nowhere near to how large a pain can be.
Thanks, Gaurav. So, Sandeep, you want to add to the same question, maybe, although we have discussed in the
I
past
think these are
also, but some.
framework questions, pretty much all expected lines. Also, I think we can't say anything which most people in markets don't know. So let's not go ad nauseum there. Uh, एक दूसरा perspective, since we are so much focusing on macro caps, let me try to frame my thoughts and present here on the type of investors, right? So right now, what is happening is, I mean, we think of microcap investors as the people who are young, who have the huge risk taking ability, who have the little, I'll say, gambling tendencies to put in some numbers here, इधर कुछ बड़ी बातें सुन करके डाल देंगे. That's obviously a much publicized and unnecessarily criticized block. But there are some good quality funds also coming in this space. So पीएमएस बाजार में आप जाके देखिए. सो लाइक्स ऑफ सिंगुलैरिटीज, मिस्टर मधुकेला, मिस्टर सिंघानिया, कचौलिया जी का मुझे एग्जैक्ट कंस्ट्रक्शन नहीं पता, बट दे श्योरली मैनेज सम क्लाइंट मनी, राइट, एंड ऑब्वियसली ही डज इट फॉर हिमसेल्फ. मिस्टर मुकुल अग्रवाल, प्रॉप मनी एंड सम क्लोज फ्रेंड्स मनी, परम कैपिटल, सेंट कैपिटल. एंड देन देयर आर अदर फंड्स लाइक इन्विक्टा. ये सारे मैं नाम इसलिए बता रहा हूँ क्योंकि कई बार हम लोग ये क्लास ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स पे थोड़ा सा मिस कर देते हैं. इंडिया इक्विटी फंड, निवेशाय, एटसेट्रा. These funds are typically 200 to 1,000 crores. What you will realize that these are the only funds right now performing anything in AIF category 3 and PMSs. So what happened is obviously 2021 से 24 में एक बहुत बड़ा बुल रन मिड कैप स्मॉल कैप में भी था. Much safer companies, less risk, doing 30-40% CAGR was very much possible. And some of these micro cap funds only came in last 15-18 months, right? So they naturally missed that easy. I mean, imagine they would have been in business and they were not. In fact, ये fund से start ही ये इसलिए हुए क्योंकि एसमी में ऐसा crazy bull run आया कि they were able to raise money even for this segment, right? So by the time they raised money and they started deploying, things were settling down. But उसके बावजूद भी last 1 year में they are doing okay. And right now they are supporting the kind of companies in certain segments which is yet not popular in typical Twitter SME space, I'll say. For example, there are some fine hotel companies which have come. Subha Hotel is a very fine franchisee. Absolutely no comment on valuations. In fact, I have a comment on valuation. I have zero exposure. So, for variety of reasons, I just don't go too many stocks. Grand Continental Hotel. You spend some time, 2 hours, 3 hours. See, ये इस segment में वो investing नहीं हो सकती कि स्क्रीनर पे थोड़ा सा देखा. You have to, as a thumb rule, and those people who love to do investing, कि यार 20 घंटे से कम मैं पढ़ूंगा, उसके पहले मैं पहली लॉट नहीं खरीदूंगा. अगर उस माइंडसेट से आएंगे, then it will really work. अब क्वेश्चन है कि 20 घंटे पढ़ेंगे क्या? उतना मटेरियल तो होना चाहिए. अगर कंपनीज कॉन कॉल ही नहीं कर रही हैं, कंपनीज की पीपीटीज ही नहीं है, इनफ डेटा ही नहीं है, 20 घंटे पढ़ने का मतलब होता है कि आप गूगल कर रहे हो उसके बारे में, उनके रिव्यूज पढ़ने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, उनके होटल प्रॉपर्टीज देख रहे हो. एक होता है ना कि डूइंग लाइक डीडी, ड्यू डिलिजेंस. वो करने का जब तक स्ट्रेंथ नहीं है तब तक इन सब कंपनीज को टच करने की जरूरत नहीं है. सो देयर आर सम गुड होटल कंपनीज विच हैव कम, some good ad companies which are coming. Uh, I think AI and cybersecurity is a missold. Most of them are missold names in SME space. They are traditional vanilla IT services companies being repositioned as so-called AI and cybersecurity. So I'll not comment on that. But if you will still look into the company और जाओगे LinkedIn में देखोगे तो आपको लगेगा यार ये फ्रॉड तो नहीं हो सकता, बाकी सब तो ठीक है, राइट. बट देन प्रॉब्लम इज उस सेगमेंट पे किसी का इंटरेस्ट नहीं है. एवरीवन वांट्स सम ऑफ दोस 4-5 हॉट सेक्टर्स जहां पे 70% 80% की ग्रोथ आएगी, ग्रोथ एट एनी कॉस्ट वाला. वहां पे कैश फ्लो भी चैलेंज आएगा, वहां पे बार बार फंड रेजेस लगेंगे, सब कुछ होगा, तो नेचुरली आपकी पिटाई भी हो सकती है. तो अगर आपको फिर भी माइक्रो कैप करनी है, अर्ली ग्रोथ पेट्स लेनी है, तो आप जाकर के इन कंपनीज के बारे में ध्यान से देखिए और बड़ी सिंपल सा एक डीएनए टेस्ट करिए कि अगर आईपीओ के पहले भी इन रन अप टू आईपीओ, and these I'm trying to make a very simplified filter, not to say outside of these filters there will not be greater stories. So in fact in many of my companies I have invested when there was a degrowth in a year, but I had reasons to believe कि यहाँ से आगे से जाएगा, but I can't obviously recommend it to everyone because not everyone will spend that kind of time. So बड़ा सिंपल सा आप टेस्ट कर सकते हो कि आईपीओ आने से पहले 3 साल तक 30-40% उस कंपनी की ग्रोथ थी कि नहीं, विदाउट फंडिंग और मे बी सम प्री आईपीओ एनीथिंग. एंड पहले साल भी 40% टॉप लाइन ग्रोथ कर रहा है. रिसेबल्स डिटेरिएट नहीं हो रहे हैं, कैश फ्लो को इग्नोर कर दीजिए. अगर वो इंडिया का जो स्टैंडर्ड है 60-90 डेज, मैक्स से मैक्स 110 डेज, उससे ज्यादा नहीं है, अनलेस उसका 200 डेज और 300 डेज दिख रहा है, देन इट्स अ डिफरेंट स्टोरी. क्लाइंट्स यू कैन गेस कि कौन लोग हैं, प्रेफरेबली नॉन गवर्नमेंट, प्रेफरेबली प्राइवेट, प्रेफरेबली गुड कॉर्पोरेट्स और B2C, ठीक है. और फिर वहां से जाकर के आपको समझ आ जाएगा कि ये 40% ये बिजनेस बढ़ रहा है. ऐसे 10 नाम आप लोगे तो आपका बास्केट कभी खराब ही नहीं हो सकता. सिमिलरली दे आर गुड हेल्थ केयर कंपनी. चंदन स्टॉक हैज डन वेल. स्टार इमेजिंग आप जाके गूगल में करिए, आपको समझ में आ जाएगा. फ्यू मोर आर कमिंग. मैं इसमें से नाम ले रहा हूँ, इसमें से कुछ एक में मेरा एक्सपोजर भी है, तो आई विल नॉट गिव यू दोज यूजुअल डिस्क्लोजर्स. और इसमें से कोई भी ऐसा ना तो वो जमाने हैं कि किसी ने कोई नाम ले लिया ट्विटर स्पेस में तो स्टॉक भागने लगा, तो आई एम लेस फेयरफुल फ्रेंकली. बट प्लीज एज्यूम दैट आई हैव इंटरेस्ट ऑन सम ऑफ दीज. आप उसमें जाकर के उनके 5 साल के बिजनेसेस देखिए. मतलब कुछ के तो स्क्रीनर में भी पड़े हैं जो पुरानी लिस्टेड है. Uh, अभी अगेन सम पीपल विल थिंक दैट आई एम टेकिंग वन नेम ऑन पर्पस हियर purely because I understand and I'll be able to make the point which I'm trying to make. So take example of a company called Nefrocare. When it came in bull market, I had no idea, by the way. I never heard about this company till like 4 months back. Even though it was listed, it was popular and blah blah. मेरे को समय ही नहीं मिलता है और इतना मुझे पता भी नहीं होता है. जब भी आया वो स्टॉक कुछ 300 रुपए, 350 रुपए, बोले दीपक पारिक इन्वेस्टेड है, नेफ्रोलॉजी है, हेल्थ केयर है, ये हो जाएगा वो हो जाएगा, राइट. एंड देन नन ऑफ दैट हैपेंड. इट्स ए कैलकाटा बेस्ड हॉस्पिटल. हॉस्पिटल बन गया, अप्रूवल बनने में 9 महीने ज्यादा लगा, राइट. प्रॉफिट्स अभी तक आए नहीं है. तो ऑन फेस ऑफ इट अगर आप उसको ध्यान से देखोगे तो आपको लगेगा अरे ये और एक एसमी का पंप एंड डंप केस है. दैट्स वन वे ऑफ लुकिंग एट इट बिकॉज यू आर फिक्सेटेड ऑन द प्राइस एक्शन कि आईपीओ कितने पे आया था, कितने पे ओपन हुआ था, उसके बाद से वो गिरता रहा है. सो दैट्स अ स्टैंडर्ड आई से फ्लैश जजमेंट वी विल गिव. बट व्हेन यू विल डिग डीपर यू विल रियलाइज व्हाट कंपनी वाज डूइंग, हाउ इट केम टू आईपीओ, what it tried to do, are they successful in doing that? If answer is let's say 70-80% yes, you cannot call it a negative development purely because price didn't support and let's say you were unlucky to buy it at 250 and etc etc. And why I'm making this discussion here, because I incidentally had this discussion with a regulatory body, not the regulators, the body intermediary bodies, group industry forum साल से, जहां पे मैंने उनको बोला कि आपने पिछले 1 साल में आकर के टाइम एंड अगेन सेबी एंड एक्सचेंजेस ने आकर के स्टेटमेंट्स दिए कि इसमें में फ्रॉड है, वैल्यूएशन फ्रॉड है, स्पेकुलेशन है. आप आपकी को आपके वर्डिक्ट्स को कोट करते हुए बहुत सारी न्यूज आर्टिकल्स आए क्योंकि नेगेटिव न्यूज सेल्स, राइटफुली रेगुलेटरी एक्शंस हुए बहुत सारी कंपनीज में, कई डिबार हुए, एलएम्स हुए, केस हुआ, सब कुछ है. ग्रेट, दैट्स पार्ट ऑफ दिस थिंग. बट इज दिस नॉर्म? इज दिस मेजॉरिटी और इज दिस माइनॉरिटी? इफ दिस इज माइनॉरिटी, एंड आई एम एज्यूमिंग इट इज सो बिकॉज आपने एसमी एक्सचेंज बंद नहीं किया है, अगर ये इतना ही गड़बड़ होता तो अब आपको बंद कर देना चाहिए. Forget about investors. You have moral imperative to close it down. You're not closing it down. You're still approving cases by cases. That means you see there is a reason for it to exist in a country like India. Then what are those positive cases? And why can't regulators also, via statements, via some kind of press release, or one some softer discussions on industry forums can highlight it? तो हम एक 3 कंपनियां जो फ्रॉड करके चली गई, किसी जगह पैसा साइन ऑफ हो गया, उसको ही क्यों हाईलाइट कर रहे हैं डायरेक्ट इनडायरेक्ट कम्युनिकेशन से? हम दिस वाज माय क्वेश्चन टू रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज. व्हाई डोंट यू सिंपली टॉक अबाउट कि लास्ट 3 इयर्स में 500 एसमी कंपनीज लिस्ट हुई हैं, उनका मीडियन और एवरेज टॉप लाइन ग्रोथ 40% कैगर है इन ए कंट्री जहां पे नॉमिनल ग्रोथ 12% है. वेदर इट वाज बिकॉज ऑफ फंड्स, बिकॉज वन टाइम दिस, स्मॉल बेसिस, डजंट मैटर. If they have on an aggregate grown business by 40%, they have outperformed everyone else in India. Who will highlight it? Who will celebrate it? Or we will only celebrate it by price action? तो वो क्वेश्चन कमिंग बैक टू नेफ्रो का आप जाके देखिए, बहुत ही छोटा है उसमें, और करके क्लोज कर देता हूँ. और स्टॉक बाय द वे इज वेरी ओवर वैल्यूड, अनलाइकली टू डू एनीथिंग, सो डोंट इवन थिंक ऑफ इट एज ए रिकमेंडेशन. But here is a small doctor who was running, I'll say consultancy, etc. He's a rich guy. He does great CSR also, but he was just a normal doctor, right? कुछ set of investors उनको मिले, बोले कि हम फंड कर देंगे अगर आपको अपना हॉस्पिटल बनाना है. ठीक है, तो पहले एक छोटा प्री आईपीओ राउंड हुआ जिसमें मिस्टर दीपक पारिक वगैरह आए. फिर उन्होंने हॉस्पिटल के लिए कैपेक्स किया. हॉस्पिटल का कैपेक्स का उनका इंटेंट रहा होगा कि 18 महीने में, वी ऑल नो हाउ इंडिया वर्क्स, आप कोई चीज 18 महीने में ट्राई करेंगे, वो हमेशा 36 मंथ्स में होगा. देयर आर ऑलवेज रेगुलेटरी हर्डल्स, राइट? सो वो हॉस्पिटल बना, ये बना. आप स्क्रीनर पे खोल करके उनका बस रेवेन्यू प्रोजेक्शंस देख लीजिए, एंड यू विल अंडरस्टैंड कंपनी इज डूइंग व्हाट इट सेड इट विल डू. इन बिटवीन केम द बुल मार्केट, इन बिटवीन केम द बियर मार्केट. ठीक है, अब इस पे क्वालिटी ऑफ फ्रेंचाइजी पे कोई डबल गेस नहीं कर सकता. यू कैन सिंपली डू ए गूगल, यू कैन फाइंड आउट हु इज द डॉक्टर, व्हाट इज द हॉस्पिटल, यू विल हैव इनफ फ्रेंड्स इन कैलकाटा. सो दिस इज जस्ट एन सैंपल केस. प्रॉब्लम इज हम एसमी में इस तरह की कंपनी और इस तरह के सेक्टर्स के बारे में हम फोकस ही नहीं करना चाहते हैं. I have many such examples, but naturally all of them, all of those are my portfolio stocks. So मैं बोलना नहीं चाहता हूं, क्योंकि मैं बोलूंगा तो फिर वो यही हो जाएगा कि यार संदीप स्पेस में आया और अपने इस स्टॉक को इनडायरेक्ट पंपिंग कर रहा था, ये है. तो मैं करना नहीं चाहता हूं. प्रॉब्लम मेरे साथ क्या है कि मैं बहुत कम कंपनीज पढ़ता हूं, तो मेरे लिए किसी नॉन पीएफ स्टॉक्स के बारे में इतना डिटेल में बात करना प्रैक्टिकली पॉसिबल नहीं होता है. सो दिस वाज जस्ट एन एग्जांपल टू से कि प्लीज गेट आउट ऑफ प्राइस, गेट आउट ऑफ दिस ट्विटर थ्रेड, rightfully so, and sometimes unrightfully, for unrightful reasons, कि यार जिसके पास जो स्टॉक होगा उसी के बारे में बात करेगा ना. मैं ओरियाना के रिजल्ट के बारे में क्यों बात करूं? मेरी ओरियाना की पोजीशन है, तो नेचुरली मुझे अच्छा लगा, मैंने लिख दिया, राइट? तो वो बायस मैं डिस्क्लोज करूं ना करूं, वो इनहेरेंट इनबिल्ट है, एडमिट करूं ना करूं. मैं तो नहीं बोन दादा के बारे में बोल रहा, केपी ग्रीन्स के बारे में नहीं बोल रहा. ऐसा तो नहीं कि वो कंपनी अच्छा नहीं की है. तो ट्विटर में कोई भी मटेरियल है वो बाय डेफिनेशन लोडेड विथ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट है. तो इट कैन बी एज अ गुड स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट, बट आई एम एज्यूमिंग सैटरडे आफ्टरनून पे इतने लोग आ रहे हैं तो सबके सब एक रीजनेबली पढ़ाई किए होंगे, इंडिया में कॉर्पोरेट्स में जॉब कर रहे होंगे, हैव द एबिलिटी टू रीड. आई एम सेइंग जस्ट डिग डीपर एंड ट्राई टू से 3-4 years ट्रेंड. ट्राई टू सी कि इनका पैसा कहाँ से आता है. B2C है, प्राइवेट क्लाइंट्स हैं, लार्ज कॉर्पोरेट्स हैं, रिसेबल में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, इसका प्रमोटर कैसा है, प्रेफरेबली आपको उसके लिंक्डइन में इंटरव्यूज दिख जाए, यूट्यूब में कोई इंटरव्यूज दिख जाए, कोई ऐसे अनपेड आर्टिकल्स मिल जाए. नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट ऑल दीज अवार्ड्स, आई होप वी नो ऑल दीज, बेस्ट इमर्जिंग कंपनी अवार्ड इन कैलकाटा रीजन, इन दिल्ली रीजन, ऑल दीज आर पेड अवार्ड्स, सो उसकी बात छोड़ दीजिए. बट कई बार आपको योर स्टोरी में कोई आर्टिकल मिल गया, कुछ मिल गया, तो आप थोड़ा पढ़ना चालू करिए, आधे एक घंटे पढ़िए, भले ही स्टॉक नहीं लीजिए, एंड देन यू विल रियलाइज कि आउट ऑफ 800 एसएमई कंपनीज देयर आर सम 200-250. अभी परसेप्शन क्या है कि 30-40 जबरदस्त हैं. ऑब्वियसली वो जबरदस्त हैं, बट वो जबरदस्त में कई अपने प्राइम में है, सेक्टोरल टेलविंड्स की वजह से अपनी पीक परफॉर्मेंस में है, पीक वैल्यूएशंस में है. There is also another 150-200 companies which actually did fairly good job after being in markets, but probably are little, I'll say, neglected right now. I personally feel alpha is in those 150 stocks, not in top 50. Plus, in any case, safety is in at least 25-30 stocks. out of these 200 stocks. So you have to mix and match. You have to diversify your industries. You have to grow as an investor, especially if you are in 30s and 20s. अब 40s में हम कितना ग्रो करेंगे, पूरी लर्निंग विल ऑलवेज बी लाइफ टाइम, बट अर्ली स्टेज में जितनी आपकी वैरायटी ऑफ इंडस्ट्री रहेगी, दैट विल हेल्प यू वे मोर देन ट्राइंग टू फोकस ऑन वन इंडस्ट्री, टू इंडस्ट्री, जो ट्विटर में ज्यादा पॉपुलर है. क्योंकि जब वो चीजें टर्न होंगी ना, तो लोग बोलेंगे अरे ये तो स्टॉक डिरेट हो रहा है, डिरेट हो रहा है. मतलब आप सारी सारी इंडस्ट्रीज उठा लो, डिफेंस, ज्वेलरी, सोलार, रेलवे, टेलीकॉम, एपीसी, दिस, ये डेटा सेंटर्स, देन हेल्थ केयर, सबका पीरियडिक चलता रहता है. तो आप एक में कंसंट्रेशन बनाओगे, कई बार ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि आपकी 18 महीने अर्निंग ग्रोथ आई और आपके स्टॉक कुछ किए ही नहीं. And which is fine if you're that kind of investor who can hold 10 12 stocks and only 2 3 industries, great. I mean, I feel most people will struggle with that kind of a stock, mentally struggle, not financially they may still make money, but they will not have the skill set or the um, mental template to handle a portfolio like that. For the average joey, it is much easier to simply construct a much diversified portfolio, all price ranges, in terms of multiples, all industries. Back to you, Prince.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sandeep bhai. So, Gaurav, coming to you, although the segment or the kind of company you talk about are less talked about, but again, if you want to highlight a few pockets wherein you believe, looks interesting to you, and specifically, there is any sub-segment you want to talk about.
See, I'll not name the companies, but the sectors. One sector which I particularly like, and there are a lot of good companies there trading at very good valuation, is cement. And that too in a smaller, less than 2,000 crore segment, specifically I'm looking at. They are trading at below book value or near book value, have limestone availability, exposure to areas where supply side is becoming better. When I say better, I mean that it is not as bad as it used to be. So at least one particular sector which I really like, and but again, ऐसा नहीं है कि यार वो sector अच्छा लगता है, then I'll go out and buy 10 companies. It is just one sector which I like. Otherwise, in my portfolio or the companies which I do, it's more of a bottom up. I don't do top down thing. Liking one sector and then finding all the companies which one is trading and then taking a bet on 5. It's all very, very bottom up for me. And but yeah, this particular sector I feel is worth highlighting.
Yes. And Sandeep bhai, it recently saw one article on money control. Not sure how relevant or useful it was. So some, slowdown from government on renewables. Is it something, worth considering or just another news? If you have gone
No,
through.
this is surely a news, but it is news for the people who are not following the sectors. For companies, it is not a news. Anybody working in industry always saw it coming. So specifically, government is slowing down new tenders for large scale utility vanilla projects. 1 gigawatt in one random place in Odisha, random place in Hyderabad, random as in barren and outskirts and all that. जहां पे आसपास इंडस्ट्रियल बेल्ट नहीं है, उसकी कोई कैप्टिव पावर यूसेज नहीं है और उसकी ग्रिड कनेक्टिविटी नहीं बनी है. तो लॉजिकली है कि आप वो प्लांट बना भी लोगे, मतलब इट्स अ वेस्टफुल एक्सपेंडिचर. नॉट टू से ऑलरेडी बहुत हो चुका है या नहीं हुआ है, बट गवर्नमेंट नेचुरली स्लो डाउन कर रही है. वो ये भी नहीं करेगी बंद कर देंगे, राइट, विच इज ऑलवेज हेल्दी, राइट. सो बट इज इट लाइक ए सरप्राइज कि लास्ट वीक में मनी कंट्रोल में आया है तो कंपनीज को लगा अरे ये तो न्यूज आ गया, लाइक ए ब्रेकिंग न्यूज, गवर्नमेंट ने बजट कट कर दिया? नो, those who are in industry already know it. In fact, a lot of good companies. So यार अभी वो स्टॉक स्पेसिफिक डिस्कशन हो जाएगा, तो इसमें आप फोकस करिए कि कौन सी ऐसी लार्ज कंपनीज थी जो इस तरीके के प्लेन वनीला प्रोजेक्ट्स गवर्नमेंट से उठा रही थी, और कौन सी कंपनी थी जो सीएनआई सेक्टर में, कॉर्पोरेट एंड इंडस्ट्रियल में काम कर रही थी ज्यादातर, नंबर 1. दूसरा, ये कई प्रोजेक्ट रीबिड होंगे विथ बेस्ट कंपोनेंट, क्योंकि बेस्ट लगेगा तो थोड़ा वायबिलिटी इजी हो जाता है. तीसरा ये है कि ऑब्वियसली it is marginally negative for sector which anyway is expected to have the headwinds is the modules, right? सेल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में ये जो भी ये रूल ला रहे हैं वो अभी उतनी हमारी कैपेसिटी नहीं बनी है, तो ये एक साल वैसे भी गवर्नमेंट थोड़ा स्लो रखना चाहेगी. बट स्लो का मतलब ये नहीं है कि वो जीरो है, डी ग्रोथ है. सो आई थिंक इट इज फेयरली गुड. डज दैट मीन कि ड्रामेटिकली ग्रोथ कम हो जाएगी सेक्टर की? आई डोंट थिंक सो. डज दैट मीन पी डी रेट हो जाएगा? वो मैं कमेंट कर नहीं सकता. आई मीन market is too big for me to guess what it will do. It is surely not a non-event, but it is not a surprise event for anybody who was following sector closely.
Right, Sandeep bhai. So Gaurav, coming to you, and basically, although you keep companies for long, but if I were to ask you about self discipline, and second question apart to it is like how you manage to keep yourself away from the sectors which obviously valuation is everybody's call, but most talked about sectors, and we have seen the companies have done well as well.
See, cell-wise, the framework I have is at any point of time, I have a lot of companies which I want to invest or track, right? And if some stock, let's say, go up nicely, and on current numbers or on 1 year, 2 year forward, I start becoming uncomfortable that they're trading at 20, 30x, or let's say 25, 30x. Then those are the stocks which I start selling, and start buying into the names which I start finding up value in. Obviously, I don't make a full position ki exit entirely and buy something entirely new. Uh, Typically, it takes me 2 to 3 months to sell anything, and it takes 2 to 3 months to build a position and to build a conviction. But sell-wise, it's very difficult for me because I ultimately end up selling very, very early. And from my selling price, I've always seen stock prices, making new highs. So I am the last person I think you should ask about the selling part because I always mess up on the selling side. And I'm okay doing it because the other stock which I buy into, I find them comfortable to hold it, even in a bad market scenario. While the stocks which have become expensive, I find them usually difficult to hold. So if I just need, I have never done this analysis, ki if I have sold something and I bought something else, and if I held on to the previous ones, whether it was net zero or net positive or net negative, I have not done this kind of analysis. But as I said in the beginning, overall the outcome has been good. And my idea is to make 25-30% as long as I'm able to do it over a 3 year period, not on a yearly basis, but over a 3 year period. I am okay, selling and getting out of stocks where I'm not comfortable with. You asked some question on the sector wise. I missed it.
Yeah, I'm missing out on hot sectors or maybe most talked about to say not hot.
Yeah, so I'm not invested in any solar company, any defense company, or renewable company. I don't have anything in AI, nothing as such. Uh, so all these more talked about stocks which are the sunrise sectors, so to say. I don't have any stock in those categories. In wind power, where I'm spending a lot of time in, I think because of what is that? There is a term, right? Uh, uh, which happened in solar modules now happening in solar cells, which was I'm forgetting the name, it's like a approved list of module manufacturer. That same thing is being applied to Wind WTG and their component manufacturers. So spending a lot of time in figuring out the value chain, who can be the beneficiary and on that side. Not clear answers, but yeah, and the companies also which are good, they are trading very expensive, so I might not be able to do anything there. But just knowing which company is doing what companies' plans are, even though they are beyond your valuation comfort, just tracking them and knowing how the results are, what valuations are currently trading at 1 year forward, what the management guidance is. Suppose they under deliver it by 20-30%. On that, what kind of multiple it is trading at, and in a bad market day, suppose it goes down in a week or so by 20-30%. Then are you getting that valuation in your zone? Then yeah, so take a bite in it, So that kind of thing is what I'm doing. But in terms of sector, I'm largely away from all the more talked about stocks and sectors. And again, I would say, even in my portfolio, I don't think one sector would have a lot of stocks. So it's all very, very bottom up. that ways.
Perfect. So Sandeep bhai, we all evolve as an investor, so our frameworks also keep on evolving. So if I were to ask you in last 2, 3 quarters or 1 year, any structural changes to the framework which you want to highlight, or I mean, it's more or less.
I have so bulk of my money I initially made in large caps and derivatives. I mean, I might have mentioned few times in spaces, and otherwise those who personally know me well. And I always had a penchant for IT and banks because I worked in banks and I worked in tech side of things also. But microcaps mein to I was all over the place. But I was lucky to add a couple of fin names, three of those actually. And then I also went beyond SME, so which are still microcaps, so less than 1,000, 2,000 crore kind of a market cap and 3,000. Some by sheer luck has grown, like Apollo Microsystem has gone 3x. So that probably is the highest market cap along with Oriana right now. तो मैं मेन बोर्ड के भी काफी माइक्रो कैप्स में एंटर किया हूँ, ऐसे कर लो प्रिंस, क्योंकि वहां लिक्विडिटी अच्छी है, it's easy to get in, get out. So maybe right now out of, uh, I mean, 20% of my stocks are main board micro caps, just not the SME micro caps. So that's one thing I did. And then naturally, something I've been doing pretty much for 9, 12 months now, getting into sectors which will not require constant funding to grow. Things like healthcare, things like, I've added quite a bit of B2C names, even in unlisted space. In fact, today I'm evaluating a food brand from Indore for a private placement. So naturally trying to go more on the B2C consumption side also, even in micro caps, which are less prevalent in this space. एसमी में आपको पता है कि मैक्सिमम वो कंपनी ज्यादा आती हैं जिनको फंडिंग कॉन्स्टेंटली चाहिए होती है, बट बहुत सारे सेल्फ सस्टेन बिजनेसेस भी हैं, तो उस पर थोड़ा सा मैंने वेटेज बढ़ाया है अपने माइंड में.
Right. So Gaurav, it's always good to talk about our mistakes. So anything you want to highlight, or maybe which has helped you improve your framework as well. So would be great to.
Mistake wise, I think selling mistakes are always there. I have not had a major, I have in my life, I have lost money, like 80% kind of money into two stocks basically. And in those also, the reason why I lost money is because of my patience. I gave up the patience and I sold it in COVID lows, like Jammu Kashmir Bank, bought at 50 rupees, sold at 10 rupees, at the absolute bottom. And it is at 110. So I was early there, but in COVID, I was finding more opportunities. The other was DB Reality, which I bought at 80 rupees in 2018. Had to sell at 3 rupees, in 2020. But yeah, it is at 200 rupees odd right now. So ultimately, the thesis worked out, and but the patience gave. I given up on the patience. So for me, the biggest mistake has always been, not waiting and just, given up on the companies and ignoring the initial thesis why I'm buying at the first place. Otherwise, the normal mistakes, of trusting a management too much, being too close to the company, or trusting somebody who is invested in the company and following his advice, that all has happened. I think all of us will do the same mistakes. And once you do it is when you learn it. So it's very easy to say learn from other mistakes, but you ultimately do it on your own. So these are the mistakes that I would say I've done, and try to stay away. Again, someday, every day you make new mistakes, you miss something, you add that and make it a part of the process. So those tits and bits can keep happening, but the biggest one has been always on the patient side. Either I'm selling too early or sold at the wrong time.
So Sandeep bhai, one question. So basically, similar extension to what Gaurav was saying. So selling at the wrong time, and one part is like holding on to. Obviously, in hindsight, we get to know whether that was a decision made right or not. But which is more painful? I mean, holding on to things or selling at the wrong point. I mean.
So, I mean, unfortunately, I don't consider it, some of these losses as mistakes, or some of these winnings as great things also. Um, Cricket analogy use karunga. In past I have done. So Yes Bank, surprisingly, I didn't lose money purely because it was very early investment. But because it kept on growing, it became 10% of my portfolio, and then the whole thing happened. By then, I was already a experienced investor, so I never averaged down. In fact, I booked losses and moved out. But it was still, very demoralizing to have one of your largest position to be such an spectacular, corporate governance issue. So one thing after that I started doing, which actually hit me quite a bit. हर हर रूल का एक डाउन साइड होगा, तो उसके बाद मैंने रूल बना लिया, सीजी का सी स्टार्ट हुआ नहीं कि आई जस्ट सेल मूव ऑन. And for that reason, I never bought any Adani Group stocks. In hindsight, that's such a easy mistake. And but I was not in India. Probably things, some of these companies, especially Adani Ports or Enterprises, were much easier to appreciate if you had feet on the ground. But all those are just unnecessarily regrets. इनफैक्ट 50% लॉसेस 70% लॉसेस को भी मैं मिस्टेक्स नहीं मानता. मैं इसको ऐसे देखता हूँ क्रिकेट एनालॉजी में कि आपने एक लोअर फुल टॉस में स्विंग नहीं किया. इज इट अ मिस्टेक? यस. Does that matter? No. I only look at my portfolio. If my portfolio is growing better than indices, if I'm paying higher taxes every year than what I paid in past, I'm doing well, right? So जब आप 40 शॉट्स लोगे, बहुत सारे इफ्स एंड बट्स आएंगे ही आएंगे. बिल्कुल रुथलेस होके सेल करना है, रुथलेस होके बाई करना है. But ruthless buying or selling, at least I don't try to do it in a month. मैं एक साल स्टॉक यूजुअली रखने की कोशिश करता हूँ, इवन ऑन द डिसअपॉइंटमेंट, क्योंकि आप एक कंपनी में अच्छा टाइम इन्वेस्ट करते हो. एक दो बैड रिजल्ट से चीजें नहीं होती हैं. आप कई बार टाइम देना चाहते हो. मैनेजमेंट कई बार जो चीजें 4 months में कह रहे हैं वो होते होते 9 months लग जाते हैं. दैट्स परफेक्टली फाइन इन अ बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट. और वो फिर आपकी रॉन्ग टाइम सेलिंग हो जाएगी. बट अगर 2-3 स्टेप पीरियड में रिपीटेड ट्रेंड है कि जो मैनेजमेंट कह रहा है वो अचीव ही नहीं कर पा रहा है, देन यू सेल प्योरली. इट डजेंट मैटर कि आप 40% लॉस में हो, एंड नोइंग इट वेरी वेल कि 3 साल और रखेंगे तो यहाँ से हो सकता है कि 2x 3x हो जाएगा. बट मैं उसको रिवर्स मेंटल एक्सरसाइज ऐसे करता हूँ कि अगर मेरे पास आज ये पोजीशन नहीं होती तो क्या मैं अपना कैपिटल इस प्राइस पे इस स्टॉक में डाल रहा होता. इफ आंसर इज आई डोंट नो, आई विल होल्ड इट. If answer is decisively no, then I will sell it.
Right. So although more or less we have covered, so Gaurav, some sense on results broad you want to share, and then we take Sandeep Bhai's opinion, and anything more if you guys have
Yeah, so
discussed,
results
we can
in the
certainly.
SME and microcap, I think this time around, I am somehow very, very positive about everything in general. Obviously, you have some hits and misses. But one thing which I particularly noticed is in a lot of companies, data levels have gone up. Cash flow statement, it is more negative than usual. So I would say if you are liking any P&L, just please go through the balance sheet and cash flow quality as well. One thing which many new listed companies are coming out. One good check that you can do is just look at the P&L tax entry for the 6 month period. Try to see how much in the cash flow are they paying, in the 6 month period taxes. If there's a very large discrepancy, like cash tax flow is, let's say, just single percent or 20-30% of what they're provisioned in the P&L. So I would take it as a very, very big negative point. In a lot of companies, I am finding the same kind of problem. And if you see Nifty 100, top 100 companies or top 200 companies, if you see the same ratio, it is usually, it is 70-80%. Like cash flow tax paid upon P&L tax provision is 80%. While in the SME case, in many companies, I've looked at all the results, maybe 80% of them I've seen. In many cases, there is a very big discrepancy. So I'm not saying if somebody is not paying tax, it's a genuine fraud, but but it has to be justified why the tax being paid is so low. So just only on P&L, I don't think it will make sense. But in aggregate, if P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow are all pointing in the right direction, that I will say as a good result. So that I think you all should incorporate. But otherwise, in general, I like companies which were in my watch list or in the portfolio. In general, I'm happy. And one indication is I'm not thinking about selling any of the stocks which I have been holding. In fact, if I had more money, I would like to buy them, but that's all. That's the liquidity challenge you'll always have. Never have enough money to buy. So yeah.
Gaurav, if I may chip
Thanks.
in with the point you highlighted on the tax, there is another side of it. So just trying to highlight here. So the way you are thinking is exactly the way I think, because I find it obnoxious that someone will not pay statutory dues on time, be it PF,
Who
be
is
it.
speaking this? Is it Prince जी speaking or Sandeep जी speaking?
मैं संदीप बोल रहा हूँ गौरव, मैं
अच्छा अच्छा,
वो
यहाँ
टैक्स
पे
वाला
यहाँ पे
पॉइंट.
क्योंकि
हाँ
हाँ हाँ हाँ, प्लीज प्लीज
हाँ, तो
बताइए
मैं वो
बताइए।
टैक्स वाला पॉइंट एड्रेस कर रहा था, बिकॉज मैंने भी ये
जी
सेम क्वेश्चंस कुछ मैनेजमेंट से किया, तो मुझे उनका पर्सपेक्टिव समझ में आया. तो
जी
निश्चित ही वो
जी।
पीएफ वगैरह डिले नहीं करते, क्योंकि वो तो वो मतलब पेनाल्टी डिफरेंट है, इट्स जस्ट नॉट एन इकोनॉमिक डिसीजन. बट सम ऑफ दीज मैनेजमेंट, एंड दिस वाज द लर्निंग फॉर मी इन लास्ट 2-3 years फ्रेंकली, क्योंकि पहले मैं इस तरह के मैनेजमेंट या कंपनीज में नहीं था, तो मेरे लिए ये नई बात थी कि मतलब हम लोग मतलब एटलीस्ट पर्सनली आई ऑलवेज पे माई टैक्सेस ऑन टाइम. आई हेट पेइंग
करेक्ट करेक्ट
इंटरेस्ट टू गवर्नमेंट, क्योंकि मेरा
करेक्ट।
मुझे लगता है यार 15% की जब तक गारंटी नहीं है मार्केट में, वाई
आपको
डू
तो
इट.
इंटरेस्ट पे करने में हिट होता है, आई तो हिट पेइंग
हाँ,
टैक्सेस आल्सो,
साइकोलॉजिकली भी
सो
है, जस्ट एज अ रूल आई just don't want to pay
हाँ
any
या
interest on credit card or anything. So that's just me. But I also know, in
करेक्ट।
fact, many investors who don't pay advance taxes, but that's a different point, because they think कि उनका जो average expected return है 15% से ज्यादा है, तो why even pay? They see it as an unsecured lending. सिमिलरली ये जो मैनेजमेंट है, इनका क्या एक लिमिट्स रहती हैं गौरव, और इनका S2 मेजोरिटी का काफी हैवी रहता है. तो वो एडवांस टैक्स इसलिए होल्ड कर लेते हैं कि उनको ये लगता है कि 15% में अनसिक्योर्ड लेंडिंग मिला है, इवेंचुअली मैं साल के अंत में पे कर दूंगा. अगेन नॉट
करेक्ट।
सेइंग गुड प्रैक्टिस, बट अच्छा, इसमें मेरा ये रहता है कि आप लोन ज्यादा ले लीजिए. इसमें अगर आप नोटिस करिएगा एसमी में, मे बी आपका और मेरा ट्रैकिंग यूनिवर्स काफी डिफरेंट स्टाइल हो, इसमें से मैक्सिमम में ना एलएपी लगा रखी है प्रमोटर्स ने, लिटरली एवरी पॉसिबल घर वर, या तो कंपनी के नाम पे एसेट्स हैं, या कई ने अपने पीजीज भी लगा रखी हैं. तो अभी भी लेंडिंग टू सम ऑफ दीज एसमीज इज नॉट दैट कॉमन. तो
ओके
वो नेचुरली, क्योंकि उनके आर्डर एग्जीक्यूशन मैक्सिमम एस टू में हैवी होता है, सो दे हैव इकोनॉमिक नेसेसिटी or even compulsions to not pay taxes. So I'm just highlighting, I mean, what you are saying is a great point, because all those economic frauds are exactly the way they do it, कि वो पेपर पे प्रॉफिट दिखा रहे हैं, because they know कि ये प्रॉफिट रियल्स नहीं है, तो कभी भी टैक्स नहीं पे करेंगे, राइट? So that's a good way to look at it, but I'm saying there are some valid reasons of why some companies don't pay it also in H1.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So that's what I said, right? Ki you have to have some kind of a reasoning why it is happening. Not like every given case where tax is low, so it's a fraud. It doesn't mean that. I just said ki it has to be taken into
No,
consideration.
that's a good point actually. We all should think like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. So Sandeep, something more on results or we are
Results
good?
यार चल ही रहा है सब डिस्कशन. आई एम टू व्हाट गौरव सेड, आई एम पर्सनली फेयरली बुलिश. आई एम ऑलवेज होपफुल. इक्विटीज गेम ऑफ होपफुल, बट जस्ट टू पुट इन perspective, आई एम वे मोर होपफुल and bullish right now than I was 1 year back. I'm more convinced about my money making ability right now than I had 1 year back. 1 year back, I was struggling to find good companies at good valuations. I was still invested. I'm a, you know, hopeless investor in a sense that habitual investor is the word I want to say, कि इन्वेस्ट करना ही है. 100% इक्विटी में रहता हूँ, तो कुछ ना कुछ करके कुछ ना कुछ स्टॉक तो लेता ही रहता हूँ. बट इन दीज काइंड ऑफ एनवायरमेंट्स इट्स मच इजियर. वैल्यूएशंस मेन बोर्ड में 18 से 24 महीने 36 महीने बाद के लगते हैं, और यहाँ पे हार्डली 6 महीने का बाद का भी लोग अभी बिलीव नहीं कर रहे हैं. इनफैक्ट ट्रेलिंग पे भी नहीं कर रहे हैं. स्टॉक्स में कोई लिक्विडिटी नहीं. So all that is fine. Great time to build good portfolios. Back to you.
Thanks Sandeep bhai.
एक क्वेश्चन किसी ने टैग
Thanks.
करके लिखा
So
है, कैन आई टेक दैट?
हाँ
हाँ,
हाँ प्लीज भाई.
फियरफुल ग्रेडी ने पूछा है कि 20 months, सी 20 months, आई थिंक ही इज रेफरिंग टू, कुछ दिन पहले मैंने बोला था आई थिंक इसी स्पेस में. सी 20 month, दो मतलब इनफैक्ट 13 months भी बोला था और 20 months भी बोला था. 13 months में एक स्पेसिफिक रीजन है. लिस्टेड कंपनीज में 2-3 लिक्विडिटी इवेंट होती है. पहला एंकर, दूसरा एंकर और प्री आईपीओ. बहुत सारी एसमी आईपीओ आए हैं 10 से 20% प्री आईपीओ लेकर के, और बिकॉज मार्केट मूड इस समय ऐसा है कि वो प्री आईपीओ वाला अगर कोई 60%, 70%, 125% गेन पे भी बैठा है, भले ही वैल्यूएशन बहुत रीजनेबल है उस कंपनी का, उसको लगता है यार किसी भी तरीके से बुक करो निकलो, और उसको भी पता है कि इतने सारे लोग हैं, कोई ना कोई बेच रहा होगा, तो वो अपने आप एक मास सेलिंग आ जाती है, इवन इफ द क्वालिटी ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स आर वेरी गुड एंड कंपनी इज गुड एंड करंट वैल्यूएशन आर गुड. दूसरा क्या है कि अगर इसमें से कोई भी पैच वर्क हो रखा है, अगर मैनेजमेंट मैलिएबल है, एज इन उसने कुछ रोजी पिक्चर दिखा रखी है, कुछ अनरीजनेबल स्टेटमेंट्स दिखा रखे हैं बिकॉज ही इज हैंड इन ग्लव्स विथ some of the anchors, some of the pre-IPO investors. I'm not saying that is the case. I'm saying all those fears simply disappears on 13th month. In fact, I know certain funds who have an analyst dedicated focusing on all these pre-IPO cases, क्योंकि जो pre-IPO में ऐसे ऐसे बेकार तरीके से बेच के आते हैं कि आपको बहुत अच्छी अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलती है. तो बेसिकली स्लेट साफ हो गई, सारे स्टेटमेंट डिसअपियर हो गए, आपके पास 2 रिजल्ट्स एंड प्रेफरेबली 4 रिजल्ट्स हो चुके हैं, आपको एक हिस्ट्री दिख गई है कि उनके मार्जिन सस्टेनेबल हैं कि नहीं, मैनेजमेंट जो बोलता है वो हो रहा है कि नहीं है. तो इट्स अ गुड टाइम टू बिल्ड दैट 13 to 20 मंथ्स काइंड ऑफ अ पोर्टफोलियो एसमी, जिसमें कोई भी पैच वर्क नहीं होगा तो अब तक वो क्लीन अप हो चुका होगा. व्हेन आई से पैच वर्क, व्हाट डज दैट मीन? सी, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल देयर आर 2 काइंड ऑफ इश्यूज. वन इज, हम हमेशा एसमी में ये बात करते हैं कि आईपीओ के पहले मार्जिन ज्यादा दिखा देते हैं और फिर कम हो जाता है. इसमें 2 एस्पेक्ट है. पहला, आईपीओ के पहले जो मार्जिन्स कम होते हैं उसके 2 रीजंस हो सकते हैं. एक, टैक्स, जो कि मेजॉरिटी ऑफ केसेस में होता है. एज एन अनलिस्टेड कंपनी, नो वन हैज इंसेंटिव्स टू शो टू मच ऑफ प्रॉफिट. नॉट टू से दे शुड डू इट, बट दे डू इट एनीवे. इनफैक्ट वीसीज फोकस सो मच. इनफैक्ट कल एक टेक साइड पे किसी यूएस वीसी फंडेड उसमें था, तो उसमें उनको क्लियर कट इंस्ट्रक्शन है कि कैश बर्न इतना हो रहा है, आप कैसे भी करके अपना प्रॉफिट आपको नहीं दिखाना है, मतलब अगले 3 साल. So you keep on spending, you accelerate growth. You can't take money from VC fund and give it to government. That's the kind of thought process they have. But coming to these companies, SMEs are not VC funded companies. So यहाँ पे promoters हैं, उनको कोई incentives नहीं है गवर्नमेंट को एक लिमिट के बाद ज्यादा देने का. तो इन सब में हमको एनालाइज करने का बड़ा सिंपल सा तरीका है कि अगर आईपीओ के पहले वो 4-5% पैट मार्जिन दिखाते थे और सडनली आईपीओ ईयर में वो 11% दिखा रहे हैं, तो 11 गलत है कि 5 गलत देख है, ये ऑब्वियसली फ्रेंचाइजी टू फ्रेंचाइजी वेरी करेगा. बट वेरी सिंपल एनालिसिस की पीयर क्या है. अगर पूरी इंडस्ट्री 10 से 12 पे कर रही है तो 11 इज मोर लाइकली ट्रू. पूरी इंडस्ट्री 7 पे कर रही है, बंदा 11 बोल रहा है, या पूरी इंडस्ट्री 10-11 पे है, बंदा अचानक से आके 20% दिखा रहा है, 9 out of 10 times these are decked up numbers, right? Or at least you have a point to grill them more on why such a high margin, way more than your industry peers. That's one. Second thing is little bit of decking. Softer decking is fine. It is simply like कि आपके घर में, not fine, explainable. Fine तो कुछ भी नहीं है. I mean, it is obviously immoral if not illegal. कि आपके घर में कोई गेस्ट आ रहे हैं तो आप निचले अपना घर और साफ कर दे रहे हो, बट दैट्स नॉट हाउ यू लिव मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स. सो ये कंपनी भी करती हैं. जब आईपीओ में आता है तो वो अपना, इतना तो प्रमोटर्स को भी पता है कि मेरी इंडस्ट्री इस समय पीक पे आ रही है, मेरी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी पीक पे आ रही है, कुछ जो डिस्क्रिशनरी एक्सपेंडिचर्स हैं वो रोक दिए तो मार्जिन बढ़ गए. नन ऑफ दिस इज इलीगल इन अ वे, राइट? बट दे विल ऑलवेज कम टू द मार्केट विद द बेस्ट फेस पॉसिबल, राइट? वो हमें एज ए इन्वेस्टर मान के चलना है. इनफैक्ट मेन बोर्ड के इन्वेस्टर्स उसको बिल्कुल एब्सोल्युटली फाइन मानते हैं. इफ यू रिमेंबर हुंडई लास्ट ईयर रिजल्ट के जस्ट बाद बहुत बेकार रिजल्ट आया था, सबने बोला रही तो फ्रॉड हुआ. What happened to Hyundai stock? Because mutual fund guys are not buying it for the first results. They are buying it for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Same with LG. LG का first result खराब आया है. Anybody tracking industry would have guessed so. But public जरूर बोलेगी कि अरे ये तो ऐसे हुआ, ये गलत हुआ. But those people who are buying LG for 3 years, 5 years will look into their recurring ability to make profits rather than the first result. So ये एसमी के भी कई बार फर्स्ट रिजल्ट खराब आते हैं. उसके 2-3 रीजन ये भी हैं कि मैनेजमेंट के लिए, स्पेशली छोटी कंपनीज के लिए, बहुत ही डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग इवेंट होती है. बहुत हैवी वर्क होता है डीआरएचपी का, आरएचपी का, इतनी इन्वेस्टर कॉल्स, मीटिंग्स, ये वो. तो थोड़ा सा कई बार वो डिस्ट्रैक्शन होता है. आईपीओ रिलेटेड एक्सपेंसेस होते हैं और कई इस तरीके के वन ऑफ है. एक बार पिछली बार ज्यादा डिस्कस नहीं कर दिया, वो यहाँ पे रोल आ गया. तो अगर आपको ओवरऑल कंपनी समझ में आ रही है फॉर सम रीजन, तो पहला सो कॉल्ड खराब रिजल्ट शुड नॉट ऑल्सो बॉदर, क्योंकि जो नया पैसा आया है यूजुअली 12 महीने लगता है रिफ्लेक्ट होने में. तो दैट इज ऑल्सो वन रीजन कि मैंने ये बोला था कि जो लोग बहुत डीपली इंट्रेंस्ड नहीं है एसएमई कम्युनिटी में, एंड दे कैन सी थ्रू द स्टेटमेंट, सी थ्रू द पिक्चर्स, पीपीटीज. For rest of the people, probably it is much safer to start evaluating companies which are already listed for, let's say, 12, 18, 20 months. So that was the intent behind that statement.
Thanks, Sandeep bhai. So, Gaurav bhai, before we close, anything on closing remarks you want to add?
I think we have not missed anything. But I particularly learned this amazing fact about the taxation part, which Sandeep ji alluded to, advanced tax not being paid by company using the proceeds for the working capital side. I think that's a great point, and I was not thinking on those lines. So I think it's a great point. And otherwise, to close, I guess we don't know when the next phase of bull market will run. But as at this point in time, on trailing numbers, a lot of companies are available at good valuations. And if we can make a good portfolio in the next 3 to 6 months, the journey over a 3 year period, we can make very outsized returns.
Thanks, Gaurav. So, Sandeep bhai, anything you want to?
No, I think I'm good. Just one follow up thing. And then another thing I said last week was also right now there is a great opportunity for companies which are 3 years, 4 years listed in SME and which are one eligible and have publicly stated that they will go to the main board. So I'll not, I mean, in my tracking universe, there are at least 7, 8 names. I'll not take but names, but I'll surely talk about some more popular ones. Vivanna is lined up, Gargi is lined up, Oriana is lined up, SJ after 1 year. So ये जैसे ही मेन बोर्ड में जाएंगे तो ये जो लो मल्टीपल कंपेयर टू मेन बोर्ड है स्पेशली इन ऑन सम ऑफ दीज नेम्स will surely disappear क्योंकि इसमें कईयों में institutional when I say institutions I'm not talking about large mutual funds and everything. I'm talking about family offices, I'm talking about AIF category 3s, PMSs etc. उनका कई बार एनालिस्ट लेवल पे एक थंब रूल होता है कि वो एसमी एज ए सेगमेंट नहीं टच करते हैं. So there will be, I'll say better times for some of these companies. Let's not lose hope. In fact, काफी अच्छी अपॉर्चुनिटीज है. मुझे पर्सनली बहुत ज्यादा मेरा हाई कन्विक्शन है कि a lot of these companies will be very popular companies in main board because suddenly मेन बोर्ड की क्राउड को रियलाइज होगा कि यार ये कंपनीज 20, 30%, 40%